Now, European Union leaders are expected to grant the UK a second delay to Brexit, but they could insist on a much longer one than the Prime Minister, the UK Prime Minister that is, wants. Theresa May is to attend an emergency EU summit today after clashing between Berlin and Paris for meetings on Tuesday. An advance EU draft of outcomes has suggested another delay will be granted as uncertain, as yet unknown conditions. Our political editor Darren McCaffrey reports.
When Theresa May's car pulls up here on Wednesday and she gets out, walks down the red carpet with hundreds of journalists screaming at her, the stakes are going to be high. In her hands, the future of Britain's relationship with the European Union. The question is, of course, can there be a last-minute deal? Or is Britain still on course to crash out on Friday at midnight? Well, EU leaders have spent an awful lot of time walking down this red carpet trying to find a Brexit solution over the last couple of years, but their patience is now wearing thin. The question is, do they offer a one-year extension? It's possible, but only if Theresa May can present a way through the Westminster deadlock. But then, of course, a one-year extension is quite difficult for her, quite difficult to sell to many of her own MPs and to the British public back home. During the summit, this room is going to be packed with hundreds of journalists all looking for division. And you know what? It might actually be pretty easy to find, because on one side, you'll have the French and Emmanuel Macron, who'll be clear that there must be a cost to pay for a delay. On the other side, it'll be the Irish and Leo Varadkar, the country that shares a land border with the United Kingdom. And they are desperate to avoid a no-deal scenario. All in all, the decisions made here and in Brussels will have profound consequences across the continent. Ultimately, the UK will want the flexibility to leave as soon as a deal is done. As for Brussels, they will insist, if they want to stay, that they cannot be a disruptive member. But either way, the status quo will change this week. What it leaves behind, well, that's less than certain.
Well, let's go from Darren in Brussels to Tig Enright in London this morning. Morning to you, Tig. As we heard there from Darren, this idea of a longer delay to Brexit may not go down very well with some in Theresa May's party and some of the domestic audience. What have the newspapers been saying this morning?
I think you're right there. Morning to you, Belle. But of course, I think the long delay that's on offer won't actually come as much of a surprise. But certainly commentators, journalists and political opponents to Theresa May are questioning how it lives up to her latest promise to not accept a delay any longer than June the 30th. On the front page of the Daily Mail, a very pro-Brexit newspaper describes it as another year in limbo. This is a paper, though, that supported the deal, and they say it's down to, or thanks to, the inept MPs who failed to support the deal. On the front page of the Times of London, there's a warning from Donald Tusk to Emmanuel Macron: don't humiliate May. Of course, seeing that written on the front page of the leading broadsheet here doesn't help achieve that objective. And on the front of the Daily Telegraph, there's a picture of Emmanuel Macron kissing Theresa May upon her arrival in Paris yesterday. And it says this is May's fate sealed with a kiss, perhaps suggesting that this could be her final act as Prime Minister, and questioning how long she can continue. I think what will be more interesting, though, is what's on the inner pages. More interesting to the EU leaders. They'll see warnings from pro-Brexit rebel MPs within the Conservative Party, warning that they will make maximum effort to make political mischief. They use the Latin term perfidious Albion, or as one of their ringleaders, Marc Francois, put it, perfidious Albion on speed.
Now, we know, as you were saying just then with some of the papers, that there are already thoughts as to who the next Prime Minister might be. How long does it look like Theresa May might be able to carry on, given the ways that this summit today could end up?
You know, I think that's still a very open question. She's tied her own future to the ratification of the withdrawal agreement. So assuming the EU27 do grant the year-long extension, her next strategy will be to get that deal ratified. Although, of course, the old questions pop up. What has actually changed? And she'll be hoping that the passage of time and the escalation of tensions will help to achieve that. Then she's got the unedifying prospect of trying to fight the European elections if she can't get her withdrawal agreement through before then. I think her future very much depends on her own resolve and her own patience, and we've seen she's got plenty of that because, of course, remember, last December, backbench rebels within her own party tried to start the no confidence motion to remove her as Prime Minister. They failed to get a majority, and that means she's immune from that process for a further year, even if they do try to make further trouble for her in the meantime. And ultimately she can say, well, look, if you want me gone, ratify this deal and I will resign. That is the legacy that she is absolutely trying to seal, hoping that history will overlook all the toing and froing and focus instead on the successful outcome. And for the time being, I certainly think that she will try to keep calm and carry on.